tell me any
Onorevole Deli ha facoltà di replicare.
Thanks, colleague. I would love colleague Jambaski to tell me any circumstance in which NATO has played a productive role or delivered peace anywhere. History has taught us that sanctions do not end military conflicts. They do not bring peace. They make the people suffer, not the oligarchs, the people of Russia, the people of Europe. And they're not going to help save lives, because the more arms you pump into Ukraine, the more the war will be prolonged, the more Ukrainians will die. And it might sound radical, colleagues, but the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And peace isn't delivered by the barrel of a gun, it's delivered by diplomacy, by dialogue. You can wish away your continent's history, but we share a continent with Russia. We will sit down with Russia. There will be a negotiated peace, and this organization should be promoting it earlier rather than delaying it and making sure that more Ukrainians die. Your feigning of sympathy rings hollow. It makes me sick, to be honest with you.
Grazie. Thank you very much.
Hello, my friends. Hello, my family. We are back. Once again, we are here for an evening live. I'm going to do quite a few of these. I got a lot of great guest slots for you guys. Now, that video is what a real anti-war, anti-imperialist advocate actually looks like. We was covering today, we was mocking Cori Bush, and we saw her reward for following along with the Ukraine proxy war. She getting her book deals, magazine deals. But anyway, welcome. We got a great show. We have two great guests that we're gonna bring on. You guys know friend of the show. He's been on quite a few times. Q Anthony Omene. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Great to have you on. We also have another great guest. I'm excited to talk to Carl once again. We had him on during our anti-imperialist summit. Does a lot of great international journalism and reporting. So thank you for joining us once again, Carl.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. So we know.
Hey, yo, Carl. I'm just gonna let you know right now. First of all, I'm still mad at you, and you know exactly why.
I know exactly what you're gonna say. I still haven't got a chance to rewatch Drunken Master 2 yet, so I'll make
whoa. It's been about a year, right? You got to understand, it's been a solid year.
Yeah.
In the full year since we last had this conversation, you want to tell me that you haven't had 90 minutes to watch one of the best kung fu movies of all time?
You say Drunken Master?
You a lying motherfucking man. Get in my face.
I'm gonna make a commitment to watch it with my wife, because that was a movie was a little bit before her time, so I'm gonna make her. This is gonna be her introduction to the Jackie Chan and his
time. What kind of age gap are we talking here, bro?
I saw that movie so many times.
It sounded kind of problematic to me.
Wait! Isn't Drunken Master like early 90s, like 92?
Yeah.
Right?
It was like 92, 92, 93.
Yeah. I discovered it in the late 90s as a 7-year-old. 7 or 8 around that time, and that was one of the things that lit the
What do you know about getting bootleg kung fu movies? Bootleg kung fu movies at Times Square, New York City in the 1990s, bro. It was listen, man. I was watching that movie back when we were doing like cross colors, okay? And Nietzsche hadn't even come in yet, right? We weren't even doing like Echo or Peli Peli. We weren't doing none of that, man. We were doing cross colors at that time.
Dude, we used to because I remember my parents were trying to push Power Rangers on me when I was a small child like that, and then I discovered Jackie Chan, and I immediately like, yo, this Power Ranger stuff is whack. And then I saw some Jet Li movies too. I was like, bro, what is this Power Ranger shit? It's whack. We used to be in the basement. We used to practice the kung fu moves on each other, and that was like the first time I really would like do kicks or whatever, because we was always boxers. And Jackie Chan, Jet Li, that's kind of like the first two that got me started. And I started going this rabbit hole, looking at like underground martial art movies. I saw some Tony Jaa stuff. But anyway, speaking of martial arts, because I want to talk about Brazil, I was talking to a friend about this. And my heart, and we talked about this a little bit actually, Q. My heart was broken when I realized a lot of the Brazilian martial artists that I've been rooting for years rooting for years. They're apparently like fascists. They love both.
Yeah, man.
And I remember
Yeah, the Gracies are actual fascists, bro, and they come from like a long line of
oh,
fascists.
man,
It's
you don't know
wild.
how much that one hurts, man. That one
Yeah.
that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
Apparently Jose Aldo, he just retired. One of my favorite fighters. He came out with a video on YouTube endorsing Bolsonaro enthusiastically. Anderson Silva, a lot of the Brazilian fighters, the Gracies, and that kind of lead to the discussion in Brazil. I want to give you guys thoughts on that because early projection and a lot of people in left thought that Lula was gonna crush Bolsonaro. He won the first round. Looked like he's doing really well in the second round.
Has he won the first round? No, I see that he's like very close to winning the first round because I think when does it count up? Is it like Sunday?
Yeah, I thought they announced that he won. Let me check.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, and they go into the second. Here's the link, just so I can just so I can show you guys. Oh wait, hold on, I copy it. But yeah, Lula wins the first round, goes to the second. But the problem is, it is way closer.
Oh, okay, no, you're right. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, because the second round of polling, if he had have passed the 50% threshold in the vote, then there would be no second round. But the second round of polling takes place on October 30th. I haven't been able to keep up because I spent all day today in my wood shop, and then I had to go watch my wife's soccer game. She actually won her championship game.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad that she won. Glad that she's doing well there. Speaking of soccer, one of the reasons why this has been so close. I don't know.
Neymar, you fucking traitor! What happened, bro? What are you doing? Oh, no. You know who actually disappointed me, and I think like the entire left, way more than Neymar, way more than any of the Gracies, way more than Jose Aldo. Fucking Hezbollah, this Dagestani dwarf, just like came out and was just like, yeah, I'm here for my friend. My friend hired Bolsonaro. Okay, man, I thought we had something. He was like a staple in my memes folder. All right, and now I'm just gonna I gotta let it go now. I gotta delete the folder. Like, what memes am I gonna use now?
Y'all know tossing Anderson and Jose Aldo to the side is probably the hardest one for me. Like they probably had the biggest. They had like the biggest influence on my style. I still remember rooting for Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva. Dude, that shit was crazy. At the bar full of rednecks. I live in Missouri. I was at a bar watching that live, and it was like 90% rednecks in just outside Lee Summit, Missouri. And they was all rooting for Chael, the American. I still remember rooting for the Brazilian. All those years, I was rooting for the Gracies when he fought Hughes. All those years, I was rooting for fascists.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. So like the Gracie family, they originally came from Scotland. So a lot of people kind of like let Scotland off the hook when it comes to like colonialism, slavery, etc. But like Scotland, the Scottish were the bankers and the financiers of the Caribbean and South American slavery movement. So they made hella money off of this, right? Scottish bankers were also like people that helped to colonize Canada. Canada's first prime minister, this drunken asshole John A. Macdonald, was also a Scot. They get. I mean, the British, granted, like the English, do have their fair share of blame and responsibility that they should be taking. The Scottish absolutely fly under the radar here. Like the reason my family's name, which is actually not Omene, but my family's name on the maternal side, it's a Scottish name, right? And the reason for that is because like the Scots were major plantation owners in Jamaica, right? And so there was the Gracie family went in two directions. One branch of the family went to Brazil. Another branch of the family went to the United States. The Brazilian branch and the American branch of the Gracie family were both heavily involved in the banking industries. As a matter of fact, there was a Gracie that was on the U.S. Treasury, as well as another Gracie that was on the Brazilian Treasury. The Gracie family that ended up in the United States were they became, because I mean they were like in the U.S. like I'm pretty sure like it was very briefly after the War of Independence from the British, but during the Civil War they were Confederates. Yeah.
I mean that when I heard that the Gracies come from wealth and they are part of the
the American Gracies were Confederates and the Brazilian Gracies were like slavers and fascists.
And speaking of Scottish, They were also involved in Hong Kong. The biggest opium smugglers in Hong Kong were Scottish. Yeah, it was Jardine Matheson. So Jardine William Jardine was the biggest smugglers out of Hong Kong, and he is a man who lobbied the British Parliament to start the opium war against China. And in fact, I remember Neil Ferguson. He gave a talk. He's a Scottish historian, quote unquote historian. He gave a talk in Vancouver. He openly bragged about it. He said, like, we Scots, we founded Vancouver and Hong Kong, on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. This is why I never just say English. I always say British when I talk about the British imperialism, because it's equally distributed across the British Isles.
After the Queen died, I saw some people saying that British royalty is the biggest drug smugglers in human history because of the opium trade and how they were trying to get everyone addicted to opium in China. Is that accurate to say? Because I heard a lot of people say that. I saw a ton of that conversation.
They make Pablo Escobar look like a child play. I mean, this is like state-backed drug smuggling operation.
Yeah.
That's why I was dancing.
Which is why, by the way, like there's a there's been like multiple Canadians on like death penalty trials in China for smuggling drugs, and over here we're just like, well, they're threatening these people with death. They're going to be executed. Yes. Do you think the Chinese want Opium War Part 2? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you want to talk about like how draconian and how severe and harsh the Chinese penal system is, but I mean, what else are you going to do when like imperial countries have deliberately undermined you, like destroyed your not just like your government, but your social fabric fundamentally by like not only importing drugs, but like enforcing the importation of drugs to make people so brain addled that they can't fight back.
That's why. Go ahead,
not just China, just like entire Southeast Asia. Don't do drugs here, because this entire Southeast Asia has a bad history with colonialism and the imposed drug trade. I mean, in fact, most of the European government, colonial government in Southeast Asia, mostly financed their colonial regime through the opium trade. Like the French in Vietnam, British in Myanmar, they all finance their individual colonial regimes through their opium monopoly and opium tax, and that's how they were able to stay profitable in those places.
Yeah, that's why I'm a strong advocate of legalization here, but I try not to judge China and Southeast Asia because their policies. Because if you look at, I'm a fan of historical context. One of the reasons why I strongly oppose the drug war here, because it was used as a tool to attack the working class, Black, and other disenfranchised communities. So there's a historical context and why you must oppose that. When you look at China, you see how the UK and other imperialist powers use the drug trade as a form of imperialism. I understand the historical context, even though I can disagree with that internal policy. I at least understand where they're coming from. I try not to be too judgmental. But what were you about to chime in, Q? Do you want to chime in? I know you about to chime in with something.
No, I was just saying that, like, people like I notice that anarchists do this a lot, which is say that obviously there's a fundamental hypocrisy for tankies who are okay with China's draconian and like carceral approach to drugs versus saying that in the United States or Canada and the West generally that people are abolitionists, or that should be legalized, or that we shouldn't be using carceral solutions. We should be using medical solutions. And it's like, no, there's actually no contradiction there. And here's exactly why. Because, like, why do people do illicit drugs generally, right? Like, I mean, people do drugs because, like, let's be perfectly honest, like, drugs are fucking cool. Right? Like, when you do drugs, you like doing drugs. What you can really say about that, right? Now, I mean, me personally, like, I don't do drugs because, there's reasons for that, right? Astaghfirullah. Like I can't. Like I'm religiously like forsworn from drugs, right? But in the US, it's not as if there are people that are being like cracked down on and executed for the importation of drugs. Like, sure, there's like RICO statutes that catch people who are like bringing drugs into the United States, etc. But like, that's not what the fundamental purpose of the carceral state does. Like, that's not their mean. What it is just to lock up black people. Like, we have the drug laws that we have here, not for the purpose of like stopping drugs from entering the United States, but as an excuse to lock up and criminalize the most marginalized people. Whereas in China, Southeast Asia, etc. I mean, could you say that? Yeah, sure, to an extent. But the entire purpose is to like enforce like a type of like general morality among the people. And the background to that is like, we're never going to let this happen to us again. So in one case, it's like, it basically, like when you have the feds literally flooding the streets with crack cocaine for the explicit purpose of getting black people hooked onto it. Like, when your government is the country's biggest drug pusher, fundamentally different story than when drug pushers are being are not only infiltrating, but are being forced into your country for the explicit purpose of making it impossible to resist imperialist advances. So no, there is no contradiction there.
You know,
like,
Q,
no, I don't.
You know,
believe
you're asking too much,
yeah.
Q. You're asking United States to actually jail the CIA, right? Because we all know they're the ones who are bringing the drugs into the United States.
Yeah, no, it's like who are you gonna talk to when your government who are you gonna talk to when your government is also your pusher? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So no, there is no contradiction there.
Yeah, for sure. I wanna ask you guys your opinion on I know I talked to Q about this. I'm actually curious to get Carl, and then Q, you can respond to this as well. The U.S. push to go to war with China, and they threatened China over Taiwan. I just saw this story today from John Bolton. He was asking. Let's see if I can pull it up. I was just reading it. Pretty much saying how we got to have a hard line if China invades Taiwan. What is your general take on the Western narrative regarding that, and how Biden recently said if China invades Taiwan, we're going to ignore U.S. One China policy? Do you guys want to take that on before we move on to the next topic, since we were talking about China?
I think the perfect transition from our first topic, which is Brazil, to the China topic, is that there's a recent Tucker Carlson video on Brazilian election. I just saw this on my Twitter feed, and Tucker Carlson is posting this as China is taking over Latin America. We cannot have this happen. We must support Bolsonaro because Lula is essentially a Chinese proxy to take over the Latin America, which is totally ridiculous. But he's pandering specifically to an audience, his audience who have grown up in U.S. being fed years, decades of anti-China propaganda. So this is how they relate to the world news. You know, they already understood China bad. They might not understand anything about Brazil, but you're saying China bad is coming to Brazil. Oh my God, that's America's neighborhood. You know, we cannot let that happen. I mean, this is kind of the insane level of the China bad narrative nowadays in the United States. I mean, it's comical. That's why I tend to laugh a lot in my podcast. People question me why I always laughing. What can you do? I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. Q?
Yeah. I want to get.
Here's my thing. I actually just don't believe people when they say they care that much about Taiwan. Nobody fucking cares about Taiwan, bro. No, they don't. They actually don't. Like, people, I think even Tucker Carlson has a bit of a heart. Like, I think that's why he has to ham it up so much with these like ridiculous like guests that say things like, "Well, our American soldiers need to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls." What they're basically trying to do is like try to reinvigorate warrior culture in America. And unfortunately, it's something that Americans lack. I don't think that any American can take even like the most cursory glance at Chinese history and deny that there is just like an intense warrior culture running throughout Chinese history. What fucking warrior culture does America have? That's why they have to say these outlandish things. Like, they have to talk themselves up into it. No, because
I hit the back of the gym. They hit me. They look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like,
No,
"I'm
what-
training, motherfucker."
Okay, let me
Go ahead,
answer me this. Answer me this. Name an American warrior on par with like fucking Lu Bu. Try to tell me. I would like to know.
We just got war criminals.
Fucking Chris Kyle? Like, what do you got?
Well, no, this is a very good point, Q. You raised
Yeah.
up because I distinctly remember the time when the Gladiator movie came out. I went to the movie to watch Gladiator because I'm a sucker for period dramas. And before the movie started, some redneck dude stood up, and this is in Chicago, I think, by the way. And this some dude just stood up to say, "This is the reason we are going to Iraq and Afghanistan." I'm like he was saying that ironically, like this is because somehow Rome, we're continuing the Roman tradition, obviously pacifying the peripheries. I mean, this is
Roman. Listen, like, what are the founding fathers but a bunch of fucking like Roman cosplayers, right? this idea that George Washington just like jizzes himself over the idea that he's like, at that time, like the modern day Cincinnatus. You know what I mean? Like, his whole purpose was to like take dictatorial control of America and then relinquish it, right? As any like benevolent leader should, is like claim absolute power so that he can let it go, so he can show people this is what a leader does. Americans, like, it's weird because America I see is like this like bizarre funhouse mirror that's like a melange of superior cultures that came before it, but they can't quite capture the essence of any of them, right? Like, they try for Britain, they try for France, they try for Rome, and it just never works, which is why they always have to go to war to try and prove and valorize themselves. And then you end up with like nothing, because what do most Americans want? Like, people say that Americans are a warlike people, to which I say no. Now, do they like fighting wars? Yes. Are they warlike? I don't know about that. The last time that Americans had a major conversation about the draft, it was like in the course of abolishing it. Why? Americans don't actually like to go to war. They just like to call the manager.
Yeah.
Like the JSOC guys are basically just the manager. Like, they're the world's cop, right? So like, if you go into it voluntarily, like, it's like, more power to you that the people really like guys who are in the military. Why? Because they see them as the manager. But like, okay, look at the Nepalese, right? The Nepalese will like carry their grandfathers fucking they'll carry the Gurkha sword into battle. All right, they've got like a cookery that was passed down through like multiple generations. What do Americans have? Are Americans carrying their granddad's M1 Garand into battle? Absolutely not. No warrior culture. That's why they talk like this.
They say stuff like, if we was to go to war with Russia, we would win. I'm like, we? What the fuck are you talking about? You sitting at home with diabetes. What the fuck are you talking about? And they live vicariously through football teams now. Right?
Okay, here's the funny thing though. I think where it comes to Russia, I think Americans kind of fundamentally understand Russia. I think that's why, like, the Russia-Ukraine war is getting it gets so much more traction than like the idea of an existential war against China, because I think Americans fundamentally don't really understand Chinese. I think it was kind of like the whole like Afghanistan and even the Iraq scenario, where like once you've gotten past like year 2 of it, it's like, wow, are we still doing that? Why? Like, they just get bored with it. Why? Because they don't really understand the Chinese, just like they didn't understand the Mujahideen, they don't understand Iraqis, they don't understand the Bedouin way. Well, they do understand Russians, because Russians are almost like America through a mirror darkly. Like, I think both cultures are like, they're weird in like very similar ways, yet they're opposites one another for some strange reason. I'm not really sure why these cultures are seen as like so opposite, because they're both like kind of weird in the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Do you guys agree with my assessment? Because I always mock, because people, I think this whole thing about the U.S. Military being so great is overblown. And do you guys agree with my assessment? I'm like, what war have we won?
Oh my God, yes.
Like, yeah. Recently, like we don't even accomplish.
Here's the thing. What makes America's like military power so good And I mean, I know, like, as like communists and leftists, like, we're loath to like give any credit to the Americans, but like one thing I will say is that like
No,
their
you don't.
no, their development, like their technological development and procurement systems are incredible. They are very good at developing new weapons and weapons that already exist, making them work better. That's just, and they're also, because there's no like attachment to a particular type of technology, right? Like, when a technology has run its course and it's difficult for the average soldier to use, where like, I don't know that there's actually they care that much about the soldiers, but they really more care about how can the soldiers use the technology to achieve their intended outcome. So there's no attachment to like the M4A rifle or something like that. It's like, no, we're just going to continue developing new rifles that make their job easier. We're not going to like have guns where like you have to like load a stripper clip into the breech in order for this thing to fucking fire, right? In order for you to like charge it and then fire. No. We're going to like develop a magazine. And also, like, the magazine has to be like settled enough that if you like drop it into like mud or sand or something, that you can still like pack it into the loading breech and fire. Like their ability to sort of like micro organize the development of weaponry is, I think, probably better than any other country in the world. That's what makes U.S. military power so immense. With Russia, I think one of the issues that they have, and me, a really good friend of mine who's like a super gun nerd, have thoughts about this, which is that like there's an attachment to tradition, and even things that don't necessarily work very well will stay in production just because there's a bit of okay, like the AK, for example. Like, a lot of people have this attachment to the AK, and I understand why, because the AK has been seen as a weapon of liberation, like, like on the African
It's cool as
continent. And
hell.
no, I mean, yes, but it's also a really finicky and fiddly fucking weapon. It is hard to modify and customize for it, right? And that's one of the fundamental differences, is that Americans are just like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? Move on, develop something else. And I think with like Russian, and not to say that they don't have excellent weaponry, I just think that people have like a fixation on certain weapons that really aren't all that good. Like, a lot of people love the Molson Nagant, and it's actually not that great. Like, the SVD is like just by far a superior rifle, one of the best like long range rifles in existence. But people have this strange attachment to the Molson Nagant. I blame Metal Gear Solid 3 for this, actually.
The gun nerd is coming out.
No, I'm a gun guy. I'm not. There's the gun guys, the gun nerds, and the gun autists. Okay, I'm a gun guy with a lot of gun autist friends.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
still cool. You're still cool with us. But nowadays, American military have all these boondoggles like F-35, which is just designed to drain taxpayer money.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it's a grift. It's a grift program.
Exactly.
The current.
I mean, it is. It's a yes and kind of a situation. Like, yeah, I know there are like major boondoggles like the F-35, but again, the F-35, I don't think that the F-35. I mean, first of all, it's just okay. Just the same way as the British, I'm sorry, but like the Indians and the Hong Kongers, the British ran the fucking tables on them, because they would take like just regular like doodads and curios, like stuff that was just like cheap goods that didn't have much value, and then like take them over to like India, take them to Hong Kong, and then sell them to people, and people are like, oh my gosh, this rare British cabinet. And it was like, yeah, I got this for fucking like $2. You know what I mean? Like, because it was British, it was just seen as intrinsically good. But I'm sorry, like, one of the things the British were just incredibly good at was just running the table on like the bourgeois of other countries. And I think that's kind of what the F-35 is like, the Americans have this multi-role fighter jet that doesn't do anything that it claims to do well at all.
Look
now,
at this, Q.
Does the American military use this jet? No. What do? They fucking develop this jet to sell it to other countries that are stupid enough to buy it. It's not a military boondog. I think this is really just running the long game on the U.S.'s partners, is what it is.
Yeah, I think you and Carl on point. I just pulled this up because I remember reading about this a while ago. Air Force admits F-35 fighter jets cost too much, so it wanted to spend even more. And if you scroll down here, look at this. with an estimated lifetime cost of $1.6 trillion.
I know, but who are the customers for the F-35? Like, is the Navy using the F-35? No. Like, in actual combat? No. This thing is fucking expensive, right?
I heard it costs $10 million just to do one flight. Like, if you do a flight, it costs $10 million.
Like, listen, on takeoff, a fucking pigeon coming in contact with it will fucking ground the plane, right? Like, it's a terrible plane. It exists so that the United States can pawn it off on like Canadians. Like Canada bought a bunch of F-35. For what reason? I have no idea. I don't know. Right? Yeah, if anything, like if anybody actually ought to be selling like good fighter jet, probably the Swedes. They have really good fighter jets. Right? But like Americans don't develop these okay, I would say like military aircraft, especially like multi-role aircraft. It's not for the purpose of themselves deploying it in combat, because like what does the U.S. military use for bombers, right? What do they actually use for like fighter jet? Also, when's the last time that like U.S. fighter jets have gotten into a legitimate dogfight? You know what I mean? It doesn't happen very often. They're using A-10s in Iraq. So like, no, I'm not convinced that like the development of aircraft and air weaponry is really anything but like it's a grift. However, the U.S. makes very good tanks. Tanks see a lot of action. Like you don't hear about there being like a boondoggle in U.S. tanks, do you? No, there's actually like so many tanks that the U.S. has stocked up, all of the same variety, that they're like most of them don't even see action. They're mothballed in warehouses just in case. And there's like no further development needed because the U.S. has very good tanks.
There's actually talks from Taiwan government about acquiring M1 tanks for Taiwan, and they're being mocked endlessly in Taiwan because by the time you need tanks on Taiwan, it's too late. You know, like how is tank gonna help?
Again, they're fucking running the table on you. We know this. Listen,
well, yeah,
by the time.
It's
by
well
the time
Taiwan,
tanks would even be necessary on the island of Formosa, right? By the time tanks would even be, you're right, it's too late. Can the United States load a bunch of tanks onto battleships and send them over to Taiwan in time? Absolutely not. Will they take the money for it? You're fucking right, they will. Are you kidding me?
Actually, almost everyone on Taiwan understood this. Understood all these high budget items that are purchased for United States is not actually used in a war, a possible PLA landing scenario. This is more like a yearly protection money to keep U.S. happy. So to keep all the U.S. lawmakers happy, to keep the U.S. defense industries happy, so they can get the U.S. government on their side. That's a core purpose of the. I think that's a purpose of a lot of the American arms sales to its so-called allies. It's really just protection money. It's a racket.
You had a ton of progressives and a ton of people on the left that voted for the latest arms deal to Taiwan, including Bernie being one of them. And this was I misspoke when I said John Bolton earlier. I meant Mike Pompeo. So it was Mike Pompeo that was saying China should know any attack on Taiwan would make China a pariah state. The whole world, will it?
Okay.
We'll see that for precisely
again. Ask your seriously, log off the fucking internet for half an hour, okay? Like go talk to your coworkers, talk to your neighbors, talk to the people that do the strawberry social after church on Sunday. Like ask any of them how much they care about Taiwan.
I know for a fact. I lived in U.S. for 30 years. I know for a fact that most Americans can't tell the difference between Taiwan and Thailand. So I mean, Q has a point. Q has a point right there.
I don't know, guys. I know
nobody cares about this. You know what it feels like? It feels like remember way back in 2008 when Russia and Georgia had that brief war, right?
Yes.
When Georgia was shelling the Abkhazian people. And so John McCain, who was friends with President Saakashvili, said we're all Georgians now, and everyone was like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're what? No, I'm not from Alpharetta. What do you mean? We're all Georgians now, bro. I'm not from Macon County. What do you mean by that? It's like nobody knew what the shit he was talking about. We're all Georgians now, and it's just like that with Taiwan. Like they have to talk this up as if the average American, I would say like the average Westerner generally. I'm not even gonna do the whole like ask them to point to Taiwan on the map. Ask them, why do you care about Taiwan? And they're gonna say, I don't fucking care. I care about my energy bills right now. They don't give a shit about Taiwan, bro. This is for political pundits and people who want a media career. That's it. Like there's just nobody else who cares about this shit.
Guaranteed. Now, one person on the street right now, like, man, what about Taiwan independence from China? Not one goddamn person. If you walk the street, can't see not one.
Oh,
person.
by the way, I'm my gun autist friend right now is talking to me over text, and he says, honestly, mad respect to the American military for having men load tanks instead of machines. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Anyway.
Interesting. While we have like another 30 minutes or so, I definitely want to dive into this topic and get your guys' opinion on this, because I saw this video from this is the UK Prime Minister Liz Truss. And I've been talking about this a lot because it's been funny. I don't know if you guys remember that the very beginning of
did you know there's a theory going around that like Liz Truss is like Liz Truss on the low has like a dom sub relationship. She's like the sub, and the necklace she wears is like the sub's collar. It's not an actual necklace; it's more like a collar. You know that?
I trust.
Yeah, because she was out here, she was out here like smashing dudes behind her husband's back, and then I guess like the theory is that like this necklace that she wears, which like you can actually go.
Does she have it on? Does she?
Yeah, all the time she has this necklace
I'm about to pull this video up. Is this
yeah.
the necklace? Hold on, let's see. This is it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna play this soon. But is that the necklace you're talking about? I don't know. I'll make it bigger.
Yeah, zoom in. Yeah, no, you have to see the pendant. You got to see the pendant on the necklace to really understand.
Damn, man. Too bad you don't.
But the pendant on the necklace, like if you Google image or do like a 10-eye search, it's actually like a dom sub necklace. It's basically like the clasp that the dom has them wear everywhere.
The first link I saw, I typed that in. The first link it says, "Does Liz Truss wear a BDSM?" I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I gotta say, listen, man. I'm an honest man, and I'm also a human. All right, that does kind of make me like her a little bit more. I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry, like, bro. She might be a decent shit prime minister, but I don't know. She can, yeah. Listen, Liz. Liz, when you've retired from 10 Downing, and then probably will be soon, just give a boy a call. I'm saying.
Hey, it's 2022. We don't kick Jamie anymore.
You don't judge around.
More power.
I thought we were sex positive on the left.
Yeah, more power to her. That's probably the only base thing she ever's gonna do.
I don't know. Maybe it's because of the industries that I've worked in. Like like people who are into that shit is, I don't know. There's something about that. I don't know. Terrible prime minister, but yeah.
So like she just got started. Apparently, it's been nothing but a disaster. Like she came out with this plan.
If you've seen the UK budget, the UK budget is so just, it's fucking insane. Like coming from I'm pretty sure people know this about me, that I come from from the financial industry. So, looking at that budget, I was like, this is just not sane. I don't understand. You have billions of dollars in unfunded giveaways, and this is not even like that sort of like hyperbolic democratic way of talking about things like tax cuts and like credits and that sort of thing and privatization. Like, no, this is literally like billions upon billions of dollars of unfunded giveaways. Like the UK has no way to pay for this shit. The problem is the UK. When Americans cut taxes, at least America has, maybe not the strongest, certainly not as strong as it once was, but America does have a manufacturing sector. As much as people love to bemoan America no longer doing manufacturing, it's all been outsourced to China or India or Mexico or whatever, but they do have a manufacturing sector. Britain doesn't make things. The UK imports everything they need.
Yeah.
So what is backing up? Okay, so what are these government bonds that are being issued? Like, what are they based on? The thing is, in order to issue government bonds, there has to be some degree of revenue. So if you raise taxes, generally it comes off of your ability to produce. So whether it's income taxes, whether it's corporate taxes, etc., these are all like byproducts of a system, like systems of production. The UK's productive capacity is so low that it's abysmal. The thing is, the UK was a financier capital at a time when the system of global finance had not fully crystallized. By becoming the center of global finance, the UK was able to build an absolute empire across the planet because they like everything that they needed, they were able to pull from their colonies. And what they were able to do themselves was to financialize all of these products that were being imported. So, tea, coffee, sugar, tobacco, indigo, iron ore, so like all silver, all of these things, which was passing through the hands of oftentimes like Scottish financiers, was essentially like you could call it like flipped in street language and then resold either to other colonies or to their business partners, which is why they were in constant warfare with the Spanish, with the French, occasionally with the Italians and the Germans. The reason for that is it's not just because of territory, it's also because of like financialization, like their ability to take goods that they're plundering from elsewhere and financialize it.
Yeah.
The problem
HB
is they no longer have the ability to do that. So what are their bonds based on? Like people say things like, you know, like governments are printing cash, and that's not exactly how it works. But the UK
US
does
can
like
do
they're
that.
not able to back their financialized product. They're not even able to back their fixed income securities with productive forces. That is weird to me.
Yeah, US can print money because US dollar is still the reserve currency. The rest of the world will still take it. There's demand for it. I don't know about the British pound. And just to add what Q was saying earlier, HSBC actually stands for Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. It was a bank formed in Hong Kong in the it's either in the 1850s or 1860s to finance the opium trade. That's how they got their start. And now today, HSBC is like one of the world's largest bank. And if you go to their corporate history, they even go to Wikipedia page, they totally try to whitewash their origin and how they started from financing the opium trade.
Oh yeah, Wikipedia is
like go have a look. Like go to like Financial Times or Bloomberg and just go check at how UK bond markets are doing. I don't think people are talking about this is the 2008 financial crisis all over again. No, I think it's actually worse. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, certainly not as long as
it's gonna get way worse coming up here soon, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, with energy prices being what they are, with like no prospect of like sanctions ending, with America having blown up the North. I'm sorry. Like, can we just we can agree with the United States, right?
100%.
Yeah. So with the Nord Stream pipeline having been blown up, like the UK, by by joining in this like futile proxy war, they basically cut their own throats. And
oh yeah,
I mean, we can all like laugh at Turf Island or whatever, but I mean, frankly, like there's a lot of working class people in the UK. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't vote for this because keep in mind, like the reason that Liz Truss is prime minister is not because they voted for it, but just because that's what they got, right? Yeah, with Theresa May, it was very much the same thing. They got Theresa May because that's just what they got. So in their last several elections, there's only actually been like a couple of votes, right? There was like the vote between Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson, between Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May. What was it before that? It was like Miliband and Gordon Brown, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, Cameron. It was David Cameron. But you get the idea. Like, I would say like probably only like half of the like major decisions that have affected the UK economy over the last say 15 years have people had any direct democratic input on that. And unfortunately, like this is the end result. So yeah, a lot of people are going to end up suffering, and they didn't ask for any
Are
of
you
this.
questioning the legitimacy of Western democracies, Q? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I mean, there's no such thing as a democracy. If you're a parliamentary democracy and a monarchy, you don't really have a democracy. You're just a bunch of that have like convinced you, like you've just gaslit yourself into believing you have any agency in your country whatsoever. Like, I'm sorry.
I would never buy you on my
the
channel if I
US
knew you were
situation right now is like
question
it's tough to watch. No, I've never seen any country just financially fuck over themselves like this. It is like
you want to see this video because that's literally perfect time, and I get you in here, Carl, because it's perfect based on what you're saying. Because I was gonna share this video, Liz Truss, and I think it's very funny. I can't wait to see you guys' reaction because I don't know if you guys remember before the Ukraine proxy war, these leaders was gaslighting their people, saying that they can win this economic war against Russia. They were saying, "Oh, we're just gonna band together and we're gonna crush Russian economy." Do you guys remember that? Now, fast forward that now they're saying, "Oh, this is the work of Putin." Now check this video. It's only 2 minutes, and you see this person comments, "UK in February will crush Putin's economy with sanctions." Now in October, they're saying Putin is waging a financial war against us. So let's watch this real quick. I'll get a reaction.
How worried people are. And I understand that people are struggling and it's very, very difficult times. And this is a global problem. You know, we've got Putin's war in Ukraine, the aftermath of COVID. And what is happening around the world is that interest rates are rising.
If we look at this graph, and you can look at it over there, Prime Minister, you can see what happened to the cost of government borrowing. On the day that you made that announcement, it spiked. And it didn't just spike, it's predicted to stay high for long. Now, the reason that matters is when it costs the government more to borrow, everything costs more. Everybody feels the increase in interest rates, whether that's on government, on mortgages, on people's rents. This is a direct consequence of the decisions you made last week. And interest rate increases are going to mean pressure on people's mortgages and less money for public services.
We have been in a very long period of low interest rates. And the fact is that due to the war in Ukraine, perpetrated by Russia, interest rates are rising around the world.
This is not about what was going on in the war in Ukraine already. We know that that's a huge challenge.
You see her first reaction is to blame. Oh, this is because of Putin. Remember when the rest was
what is the pound sterling at with the USD? Like I know they were approaching parity. Hang on a second. I gotta look this up. I've been spending my days woodworking and not paying attention to this. Hang on a second. So
while you look at it, I want to get Carl in here. Carl, I know you want to chime in early. Anything you want to add?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I was just gonna say I'm actually amazed the level of the European charcuterie to United States. I mean, like
cuckoldry.
Yes, thank you.
You sounded like you said charcuterie for a second. I was like, wait, they're
it's my ESL. It's my ESL. I mean, everybody believe privately, at least, that U.S. blow up Nord Stream 2,
115. Right? Holy shit! They're almost at parity. Wow. The pound sterling is almost okay. So just for reference sake, like back during the financial crisis, do you know where the 2008 financial crisis? Do you know where the pound sterling was in relation to the U.S. dollar? Two times. It was more than $2 US.
Wow.
They've dropped by almost 50% since then.
So if they had their asset in pound sterling, their net worth just halved. If you're one of those forex guys, like you're fucked. But then the other part is like when ratings agencies start losing confidence in your, like, it's not just like in the pound sterling, it's like in the UK's ability to fulfill its debt obligations. So it's like this AAA rated bond that when governments issue bonds, ideally they're supposed to be AAA, right? So like when the US issues bonds, they're AAA, as in like this is the highest quality bond that you can get. Like you not only will you get the face amount, like if you buy $100 bond, the $100 is the face amount, and then the 5% interest over like, I don't know, 10 years or whatever, that's the coupon amount, right? So it's like, yeah, we are fully confident that you will get both the face amount back plus the interest that they say that they owe you. So if
Moody's, which is a ratings agency that was actually responsible or partially responsible for this 2008 financial debacle by rating what are supposed to be like junk products as AAA. Now they've like gotten their shit together because of the amount of fines that they faced, and they're taking one look at the UK bond market in relation to this budget that was just released, and they're saying, yeah, we're not really sure that we can issue AAA on this. Like, we're not 100% confident that they can actually meet their debt obligations, which is a real fucking problem. Now, they haven't actually downgraded it, but their outlook. So there's a difference between like the bond rating and the outlook. The outlook is basically to say, will we continue to have confidence in this this bond, in this government bond? And when they say we're not really sure, that's a bit of a problem. Not the same as a downgrade, but it should still trouble you. And the other part of that is the IMF. Even the IMF took a look at the British budget that was released by Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng. The International Monetary Fund was like, yo, guys, like, this is really fucking right wing. Like, this is really hyper concerned. Like, you guys are going a couple of steps too far. Even we can't co-sign that shit. When the IMF is saying that your budget is too neoconservative for their palate,
Yeah,
you know you got some fucking problems.
Yeah,
So,
I want to get Carl
that's
back
where
in
that's
here.
at.
Carl, anything you want to add? I want to get you back.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just enjoying Q's commentary here.
Yeah. You always
Listen, man, all I can do really is just like listen. If reading the news is just depressing as shit, so the most I can do, or at least the least I can do is make it funny, or at least try to anyway. Because yeah, like the UK is like careening towards. I mean, I don't think they're gonna like completely collapse economically, but they're driving themselves towards some really rough times. The US also convinced like the EU to cut its own throat. The EU is now looking at like countries in Africa and saying, well, if you're not going to join us in cutting our own throats, we're going to cut it for you. I mean, the planet is still like on fire. Pakistan, like a while back, like lost 80% of their fucking livestock. And yeah, like how can you look at all this and just try to live a normal life? The only way that you can really cope with it is just by trying your best to make jokes out of it.
If there's more people in the street this winter, I don't know what it's going to take, man. I'll ask before because I think this is. I question whether this was economic war that they miscalculated or controlled demolition. I lean more towards the fact that they wanted this to happen. But Carl, I want to get you in here. I know you want to chime in a few times, but go ahead, Carl.
I remember seeing a video on my Twitter feed. This is in the Czech schools. The students are wearing electric blankets because they're cutting the heating to the schoolrooms. I mean this is insane. And somebody actually quote tweeted. They made a quirk. They made a joke about it. They said, "Well, those are made in China electric blankets, and you are now trying to start shit with China. Good luck, you know." Like, but that's why it amazes to me that how much the European elite is following the U.S. footsteps, even though they're literally being led off a cliff. I mean, all the problems in EU today is benefiting U.S. You know, it's the cutting off the Russian gas pipeline is leading to the increase of U.S. LNG, liquefied natural gas export to Europe. Right now, European industries are fleeing to U.S. There's an article, I forgot whether it's on Wall Street Journal or Forbes. They talk about how the U.S. reshoring attempt is working, but those industry coming back to U.S. are not coming back from China. They're coming from Europe because the energy prices is so high. So all these European firms are now coming to U.S. and this is in the plain sight of everybody. It just seems that European elite doesn't give a shit. They don't really give a shit about their electorates. You know, of course we know they don't give a shit about the working class people in general. But the fact that they to that extent, that still amazes me.
It's been hilarious watching Germany and the UK trying to pretend it wasn't the United States that attacked the gas line, even though you had Anthony Blinken that openly admit that there was, this is a great opportunity.
Germany's just another. They're so cooked.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you see Zelensky and then was yelling at Germany. They're like, "Why are you not sending us more weapons in Germany? Like, we are out. We send you all our weapons."
It's like, imagine this. Imagine Germany of all fucking countries. Germany is like Germany is like a subordinate to Ukraine. Could you? And
Oh, Jesus
God,
Christ.
21st century history is going to be looked back upon as a wild fucking time. Imagine Germany being subordinate to Ukraine. Like, listen, if you have Prussian pride, you got to be feeling really low right now. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like one of the old school Teutonic knights, you're looking down at like your descendants and just saying like, what the fuck? I should have just died on the battlefield rather than making it home to my wife so we could reproduce, because what the shit is this? Anyway.
But I mean, that's an amazing part. I think there's a general awareness even among the European public of what this.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carl, but like,
Yeah.
imagine surviving fucking battles in the Teutoburg Forest against the Romans to be fucking dictated to by a 5-foot tall stand-up comedian who's high on coke. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I would kneel and castrate myself if I knew that what's gonna happen to my bloodline. Jesus Lord.
Oh man, yeah! Please interrupt me anytime with those anecdotes. They're great. Keep them coming.
All right.
Oh,
This is why I want to have Q and Carl on at the same time. Always fun stuff. I want to share this because this is another example of, like, I mean, I guess me and Q, we always laugh at this because I get like our people are so passive now. I don't get why people are not fucking going crazy over this. Look at that. You got they sent another. I saw this headline today. I don't gotta say receipt, but they sending another.
Yeah, real like putting a little white red-haired kid on.
Come on, bro.
Yo, you're making a white red-haired kid the face of school hunger.
Come on, bro.
Oh my God.
Shit.
No, man, I can't do this. I can't. Okay, sorry, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you, but this shit is just too funny. Go ahead.
School lunch is too costly for a growing number of families. Will White House pledge help? No. The end of universal free meals has left a growing number of families in financial query. So this is the headline. Well, Biden helped stopping assistance to that, but he's sending billions of weapons to Ukraine. They just sent a third of a billion and authorized even more today. So as a kind of final question to you guys, like, how do you guys see this shit ending? Because where we at right now, I don't know if you guys saw the corporate media. The corporate media is melting down because they was like, Russia's mobilizing the troops. They're drafting people. Like, what do you guys think was going to happen now that Russia will understand and find a NATO army? But you guys will take that on, and I'll get you guys out here. My
nigga, invest in iodine stocks. Go stock up on iodine pills yourself. Man, okay, what are the name of these companies? Iodine pill making company. Which company actually makes these fucking iodine pills? Iochem Corporation. Go buy them stocks. All right, you're gonna need it. Wait, are you clear? Like, is this landing? Do you know why you need to buy iodine pills?
Explain the joke for those. In the
you buy okay, I live not too far away from a nuclear power plant, right? We actually get free iodine pills because in the event of a nuclear accident, taking iodine will reduce. It's not going to stop, but it will reduce the effects of like harmful radiation on your body. Remember that movie Pacific Rim? Remember Pacific Rim? And remember like Idris Elba's character in that movie? Like he was constantly like he opened up this pill container and he would take these pills and he'd suffer from nosebleeds. Yeah, it's because like the machine that he was in, the Jaeger that he was in, well, it like cast off like radiation and it destroyed his body. Right. So anyway, how do I think this is going to end? Well, if they don't stop, like we're being pushed towards the brink of like nuclear annihilation. Literally, fucking Andrea Chalupa. Do you know Andrea Chalupa from like the Gaslit Nation podcast? She does this podcast with Sarah Kendzior, which like amazing pivot Sarah Kendzior did from talking about Ferguson and white supremacy to suddenly becoming an expert on Trump and Russia and like Russian oligarchy and corruption. Like the immediate pivot as soon as like Black Lives Stop Mattering in 2016. She pulled off the career pivot of a lifetime, and she hooked up with Andrea Chalupa, whose sister Alexandra was one of the point people in the Euromaidan coup. Matter of fact, she was on the fucking payroll for Ukrainian like corrupt oligarchs to try and lobby Democrats into supporting the Maidan coup. So her sister was like literally like one of the feds that helped overthrow the democratic Ukrainian vote in 2014, over which like tens of thousands of people have died since then. Like communists being burned alive in Odessa. Yeah, Alexandra Chalupa, go put that at her feet. But anyway, so her sister Andrea makes a tweet thread the other day talking about so like Russia, they don't, I mean, they talk like Putin's talking about having a nuclear arsenal, but I mean, he's all talk like look how disorganized the Russian military is. He doesn't really have nukes. Like they probably don't really work. I mean, he's like saber rattling about nuclear warfare, but I mean, I don't believe that shit. I mean, you just go ahead and test them. Like, yeah, put Ukraine into NATO. Matter of fact, just do a fucking no-fly zone while we at it, because what they're basically saying is, yeah, like y'all might just actually catch Putin lacking, you know.
People forget that Putin first made a nuclear threat when he said, if you guys try to pursue Sweden and Finland during NATO, and then that happened, and then they backed down. So I think the West, in order to promote the propaganda, they keep saying that Putin threatened nuclear war. From my point of view, I've seen him saying like we don't want to do this, but if you guys continue to threaten the Russian state, we will, which they want to trying to, because Russia already backed down a few times. But I want to get Carl in here. Also on the Ukraine money laundering scam. That's why I like to call it, and how you think this is going to end, Carl. What are your thoughts on that?
So to piggyback on Q's suggestion, join a fundamentalist Christian group because in a post-nuclear apocalyptic world, you need a tight, closely knit community.
No. Listen, in the post-nuclear apocalypse, we're going to refer to this as the pre-nuclear Jahiliyyah. Okay, this is like the before times, before we could successfully synthesize communism and Islam. This will be achieved in the post-nuclear age, okay? But for right now, we're living in Jahiliyyah, is what we're doing. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. So, but seriously, right now we are in a very dangerous moment. People now look back on the Cuban Missile Crisis. They say, oh my God, how close we were to a nuclear exchange at the end of the world. Today we are just as close, but now the media is egging it on. They're like, yes, we don't worry about Putin. There was an article I saw coming up my Twitter feed recently. I don't know. I can't even tell if these headlines are real or parody anymore. It says like, the nuclear war is winnable. It's like, what?
To your point, you mentioned how the media was edging them on, and I want you guys to realize how crazy this is, because the Biden administration is already psychopathic foreign policy. And I remember this press conference with Jean-Pierre, and then this reporter was like, "What would it take for you guys to engage with military action against Russia?" And even they was like, "Oh, we're not there yet." So you know what that means? That was the media saying, "Hey, yo, Biden, why you being a pussy? Go start a war." That's been them for the last 6 months.
Hey man, listen, we got a whole lot of F-35s. You sound kind of bitch made right now. Why are we not flying? Why are we not inflict? First of all, why do they have an Air Force base in Kaliningrad? Why don't we just go ahead and blow that shit up? Honestly, as a matter of fact, why does Russia even get to keep Kaliningrad? What the fuck, dog? This sounds like some bitch made shit to me. Like, no, you can't be letting Russia run roughshod like this. Like, no, we will not let him march to the Baltic Sea. Like, as a matter of fact, Estonians, word to you, word to fucking Estonians who said that like any Russian men that filed for refugee status in Estonia will be promptly sent back. Why? because you are responsible for what your government does.
How is that
you
even
individually.
gonna help? I mean, how does that
That's
even help
a
the
Geneva fucking
situation?
convention. You can't do that. What the hell? You can't do that to people.
How the fuck do you even like supposedly helping the situation? You know,
Holy shit.
if you're against this war, right? If you're against Russia initiating the war, then you're sending the men of draft age back to Russia so they can be drafted.
Listen,
how does that logic even work?
Pick up a rusty AK and die like a man, you pussy. That's Estonia's policy on refugees right now. So yeah, whatever, man. What is my outlook on this? My outlook is like smoke him if you got him. You know, my outlook. I mean, not me, right? I'll be working on synthesizing Islam with communism. But for the rest of y'all, shit.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, will be time to start your own cult. I mean,
whoa. Hey, no, hold up. You gotta hear me out, because me and my boy Bork, right, White Janissary on Twitter, we are actually starting the cult of the AR. I'm not even kidding. This is a thing that we're doing. The cult of the AR. The AR, like, as far as guns go, is now on its own not that great, but it's so customizable that by the time you actually kit this fucker up, it does for guns what the katana does for swords. I'm just saying, that's why we're starting the cult of the AR. We need to bring a warrior culture to the West. This is how we're gonna do it. Cult of the AR.
Yeah, I've been I tell the story all the time. I always had a natural bias against guns when I was young because I was a martial artist. But now I'm like, now I see where things are going. Now I'm like, Rome, you gotta get me armed up. We gotta start. I want to be like Deadpool now with the fucking sword, then the gun.
Yeah, you'll be like a Rob Liefeld drawing from like 1995. Just fucking guns and pouches everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a pro gun control channel, guys. But anyway, go ahead, Carl.
But seriously, you know, get organized, because I mean, I'm making jokes about cult and joining fundamentalist Christian groups and all that, but in a real social collapse, what you need is a tight-knit community who can get your back. So I'm serious about getting organized. Yeah.
That brought Rome down there working on a militia right now.
Okay, well, remember, you wanted to talk about you know, like the state of the left and all that, and I'll say that, like,
oh yeah, I forgot. Let's hit that one out.
No, because Carl talks about the importance of organizing, and I'm saying, like, the vibes on the left are so fucked that it actually like precludes organizing, unfortunately. Like, that's where and I'm not just saying this because of like my disillusionment due to like my experiences with the Communist Party of Canada, fucking like choosing to cover up for sex pests, right? But like, when you can't have normal conversations with people anymore, you can't. It's just it sucks, but that's kind of where we're at. I think because like everyone is just so like hyper sensitive to the possibility that anybody else they could be talking to is ready to like turn on them, that nobody trusts each other. So nobody actually listens to what anybody else says. What we listen to is what do I think they mean by that? And they give people the worst and least charitable possible interpretation for anything that they say or do. I remember I was talking to my boy today, and I was saying, like, yeah, I remember like back in 2020, Joe Rogan had like this like indigenous activist on to talk about like how, you know, most of what America knows about like the history of like colonialism, but also like relations with like First Nations, with Native Americans, that like, you know, the treaties that were signed were oftentimes violated, that the relationships were never like bi-directional. So she was basically just like going on to like give, you know, Joe Rogan sort of like a history lesson on, you know, American Indigenous relations. And I remember having said this on Twitter. I was like, oh wow, it's really cool to like listen to Joe Rogan and hear that kind of conversation being had. And you know what happened? People got mad at me that I was listening to Joe Rogan. Like the most popular fucking podcast in existence, probably the most popular piece of media that does not exist on like broadcast television in the world, mind you. People were mad that I was listening to it. Now, and we've kind of gone down this route because we've established this idea that listening to a person, or even being friends with a person, being in contact with a person, being around a person that is deemed to be problematic, they'll be called like a fascist, they'll be called a collaborator or adjacent to white supremacy or
Hugh, I literally had a conversation with Jackson Hinkle about why we disagree about.
Yeah.
He put.
Oh yeah, you got attacked for platforming Jackson Hinkle,
and people got mad because we literally disagreed. The whole point was I was like, "Yo, I think this is a waste of time," and we had a conversation about it. So I was pushing back on it, but people was pissed because we had a conversation. He like, and once people watched the video, they were like, "Well, I know you guys were debating, pushing back, but isn't it dangerous to even talk to people like that?" I'm like,
dog, shut the fuck up. Are you a grown adult or are you
about?
not? And here's the thing. Because people have just established this idea that like being in the proximity of somebody that they find problematic will inevitably influence you into also being problematic. And really what it comes down to is like, it's basically saying, I consume your content and I don't want to hear this content on your show. And the fact that you have this content on your show, I can't just say I don't like it. I have to assign, like I have to attach political import to how much I don't like it. So it's not just I don't like that you're talking to Jackson Hinkle, or I don't like the fact that Jackson Hinkle is on your show. It's that you are platforming fascism and may yourself be a fascist. And it's like, go outside and touch some fucking grass, you abnormal piece of shit. Dude,
I think that's
go find a hobby that involves feedback. Go find a hobby that doesn't involve you being in front of a screen. Find a hobby that is not media consumption or politics, because your brain is damaged right now. That's where we like left-wise. That's where we are right now. People don't know how to be fucking normal anymore, and it's really starting to get on my nerves.
Exactly.
A lot of that is just a virtual signaling, though. I mean, like, do people really care that much, or they're just trying to, appear on social media? They're more ideologically pure. I mean, I question that. I think a lot of that people are just posturing and say, hey, I'm good. I'm on the good side.
Yeah, exactly.
It is partially that, Carl. I almost feel like you're giving people too much credit, because it's like, I'm saying this because I want to be considered a good person, and by being considered a good person in my social circles, I will be more respected. No, it's actually worse than that. I think people are actually believing that there is such thing as a pipeline. Unfortunately, there's not. Generally, in your life, you will meet and you'll encounter people that have ideas that they'll tell you all about, and you'll, in all likelihood, do this. You'll take some of their ideas and you'll leave others. Your family members, for example. You probably have family members that just get into like political conversations with you that you can't fucking stand, but you like nod through it because it's like, do I really want to get into an argument with this person today? Or like, how much energy do I really have to expend? So you just, I know, right? Yeah, Joe Biden, he does fucking suck. Not for the reasons that you think, but like he does fucking suck. And then you leave it at that. Now, do your family members influence you into betraying your own principles? Fucking no, probably not. You have your set of principles, and the people around you probably can't like easily budge you off of them. So if people in my own family, or even like your manager at work, right? Your manager might complain about taxes being too high. You're sitting there going, you piece of shit, you don't pay us enough. Now, you being around your manager at work, is that influencing you into becoming a corporate lackey? I mean, it's possible. Probably not likely, because you know that you're getting paid dick and you can't make rent. So if that's the case, then why would you think that me listening to a podcast is going to change my views on any of this shit? Why? Because you yourself consume media as a hobby. You've been listening to people that have been frying your brain, and you think that my brain is going to be fried in a different direction. There's going to be like a different a different neural map, but the same thing is going to happen to me that happened to you. And the answer is like, no, because I'm a fucking adult that has like solid morals and principles, and listening to Joe Rogan is not going to change that. Like, yeah, I enjoyed the fact that like somebody came on a very popular show like that and was able to have that kind of a conversation with that wide of a platform. But the problem that you see is not that she didn't get enough speaking time. Granted, like it is great that somebody can have that big of a platform. No, it's not that she can get enough speaking time or say exactly what you need to say. No, the problem is, yeah, but somebody out there who claims to be on the left was listening to it. To which I say, get a fucking hobby, dog. That is the biggest problem with me on the left, is that people have completely not just forgotten, but like abdicated the responsibility of being normal fucking human beings.
Well, point well made. I think a lot of people have an easier time selling their communism by just simply being more normal to people.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
guess,
will help.
like,
Just let people understand that we are normal, guys. Stop being.
DSA Be Normal Caucus.
Just be fucking when they see you guys be weird, it hurts our cause. Anyway, I want to get Carl in here. You can also talk about your podcast as well, Silk and Steel. We gotta do this again. It's always fun.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Like, here's
go ahead,
we should probably define what being normal is. To most people, being normal is somebody who's like well-adjusted, kind, gracious, listens, but has solid principles and ideas that they demonstrate rather than talking about. You know what I mean? If you instead of talking to people about abolishing the family or about like labor theory of value, demonstrate these things in action. Be a generous person. Be somebody in your community that other people can look up to. Be somebody that, like, if somebody needs their pets babysat or an old lady needs her lawn mowed, if just be somebody that people can rely on and are kind to you and expect that in return. Everybody in my neighborhood knows me by my first name. Everybody in my neighborhood knows that come Halloween, my wife is going to do something really fun for the kids outdoors, and that we have like the best treats to give away. Like, people know us for that. Like, just be that kind of a person, and I promise you, you will make far more of a political impact than any fucking theory that you learned from. Like, I'm sorry, if you could just be a cool, like, normal person like that, it will provide infinitely more value than you being able to recite the Gotha program by heart. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
totally
agree. What are you talking about? But go ahead, Carl.
Sorry, I'm in complete agreement with Q here. It's fine. I'm promoting my show. Oh yeah, sorry. Silk and Steel podcast.
Tell us a little bit about it. Like what kind of topics you cover and
I primarily focus on China and surrounding regions, politics, history, and culture. And currently, I'm doing a chronological retelling of Chinese history from the beginning, from like the prehistorical times. Right now, I already made it to 656 BC, so I have a long way to go. It's gonna take you a
long ass time to finish, bro. Because I know about the Three Kingdoms, because everyone does, obviously. But anything else, I'm very shoddy on it.
Yeah, I'm like 800 years away from Three Kingdoms period, but I'll take my time to get there. And I also I'm also doing a series on the Chinese Civil War, but specifically in the Manchurian theater. I'm about to wrap up that series, and depending on my audience response, I'll decide whether to continue, doing cover other part of the Chinese Civil War, or branch out on another series. I did embark previously on a series on the opium trade, starting from tracing its origin with how the European colonists, by introducing tobaccos to Southeast Asia, by mixing tobacco with opium to get, made opium smoking a thing, and then how British, by conquering India and starting an opium monopoly in India, forcing Indian farmers to switch from growing staple crops to opium, and then causing regular famines in India, and then using that their Indian opium monopoly position to pipe the drugs into China. And I trace that opium trade all the way through to the 20th century, because the opium trade didn't stop with the British. Later, opium got refined into heroin, and heroin gets shipped to all over the world, and that for in the present day, until very recently, Afghanistan, after NATO occupation, was one of the largest source of heroin for the world, because of all the opiums that were being grown under U.S. protection, and like I trace that whole lineage from the days of Opium War through the CIA involvement in Southeast Asia during the Cold War, and that series was on a hiatus because one of my co-hosts had a baby, so I'm hoping to pick up that series soon. So this is kind of shows what I'm doing on my show. And sometimes I do like talk about current events like Taiwan by popular request. Just my passion is really on history. I really get cute when he goes off on his historical references. Those are great. But yeah, so thank you for allowing me this platform to promote my show, Silk and Steel Podcast. I do have a Patreon website people can check out. Just search for Silk, and it'll be the first podcast that shows up.
Yeah, for sure. Always good having these conversations. I'm a big history nerd myself. Q, anything you want to shout out as well? Anything you're working on?
Shout out. Yeah, shout out the Unredacted podcast with Glenn Greenwald. Shout out Media Masochist, the podcast that I do with with T Champagne Sharks, in which we just like subject ourselves to like the worst movies and TV shows, and then we basically do it so that you don't have to, and we talk about it. Shout out to my podcasting colleague Bork. We're going to be launching the Philadelphia podcast soon, our non-political podcast, and to the culture.tv. Yeah, there's actually a whole lot of really cool stuff coming up, including the Timber Sycamore podcast, which outlines America's involvement in Afghanistan from the 1980s. That's done by Hayes and my boy Mike Petroselli. Tune in for that. Like, these guys are like seriously on point. But yeah, we've got a whole lot coming up for the culture.tv. So stay tuned.
Yeah, for sure. Always good to have a conversation and chill. So I'll pop you guys out. Thank you for joining. Make sure you guys check out both Q and Carl Zah. Thank you guys for joining me. If you guys enjoy the stream, please like, share, and subscribe. I also have a link to the Patreon in the description as well. As for upcoming content, we're going to be working on the General Strike Summit, the Activist Summit that we announced today. I don't know. I think I got a live I'm working on tomorrow. Maybe Carlos gonna join us. Then we got Savvy and JB show on Thursday. A lot of great content. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and we got a lot of great stuff coming up. So have a good one.